Hey garden friends, welcome back to Flower Patch. Today I am going to fix the soil that came with this dollar store seed starting kit and show you how I do it. I show another method on how to sterilize soil, potting soil for seed starting. Also, we are going to talk about starter fertilizers and whether or not you need them for success when you're planting your plants out in the garden. So let's get rolling. Hey flower friends, you may be wondering what I'm up to at this moment, and that is I am going to sterilize my soil another way. And this is all in the endeavor, I'll put this one over here, to go ahead and utilize, it's so full of water, this seed starting kit from the dollar store. The soil does not seem, it's not moistening. So I'm going to have to dump it out. I'm going to mix it with my potting soil, half of it, and the other half I think I'm going to mix with just perlite. I'm going to see which one works better. And I'm just going to dump it in here and go for it. I may just, instead of doing both, I'll just do the potting soil for this time. But just think of that as an option. You can dump it in there, mix it with the perlite. The perlite will help absorb water, as well as it has, perlite has the ability to contain oxygen or keep it. So the oxygen in the soil is really good. So I am going to put a couple pounds or more of soil in. This is a Ziploc bag. These are food safe, so I'm not too worried about, plastic getting into the soil or any kind of dangerous chemicals. You may differ on that. You could also sterilize in the oven, in a pan, what have you. So there, that looks like plenty for that bag. So I would say that is about half full. And when I put it in the microwave, I will do it for 2 minutes. So I'll take this inside and we will do that. And then we'll bring it out and dump it in my pan here. I love my little graniteware wash tub. Now it already has some soil in it. This is some of it that was sterilized with the water, boiling water pouring through it. That works, but I didn't want the soil to be super saturated because then it's harder to get into these cells. So that is that. And I will talk a little bit more about this burpee one that I have started, getting this stuff moist, and then I'll tell you what I did wrong, and it's the first time I've tried this. So it will be a helpful hint for you, and it's something I learned doing this. And somehow I'm going to have to correct it. All right, we will go stick these in the microwave. So here's my microwave. I put down a paper towel just to, I don't know, I have it in there often to catch drips and stuff. So one bag, we leave it open, and we will cook it for 2 minutes. Now this 2-minute microwave will kill the fungus gnats, the larvae and the gnats, as well as maybe some harmful bacteria. Now some people protest about doing this, saying it's killing all the good stuff in here. But since we're using this for seed starting, I'm more worried about killing off the bad stuff than I am in the nutrients in it that I can replace with the fertilizers that I use with my seedlings. So that is how I deal with that, or don't worry about that. Because even pouring the boiling water through it has the same effect. So yeah, it's just you have to pick your battles. And someone asked to see Sweet Rachel. Here she is talking. She's a big talker, so you'll hear her every now and then having something to say. So here it is done. And be careful, it's going to be hot. It doesn't feel that hot, so it may not have done the job. My microwave has been acting up. And not sometimes, like when we throw our coffees in here to heat them up, sometimes it heats them and sometimes it doesn't. So I may need a new microwave. I don't know, but I think that's fine. We're going to go with it. And if I end up with fungus gnats, I will just use my mixture or watering with the mosquito bits trick. So I guess I could show you that too today. Now, to be fair, I had started on this whole video and then I found out I didn't have my microphone on. For some reason, I thought I really did think I had turned it on, but I got so many things going on that I must have failed because it wasn't on. So I am going to voice over my fixing of the soil and what I'm doing to fix that. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dump all the seed starting mix that came with this seed starter kit, and I'm going to dump it into the tub. Now, it is still so dry that it really sends up some stuff into the air. And that's why I'm kind of pulling back there. I didn't want to breathe it in. This is most likely peat moss, but yeah, it just was very, very dry. You can see the water's still all in the tray. It didn't really absorb it at all, worth beans. So I dump it into the tub, and then the next thing I do is I got to find a place to dump out the water, and I end up turning around. I wasn't going to take it outside, but it was going to be a pain. So I decide to dump my water out in the tub that is to my right, that has some pots and stuff in it that I needed to clean up just to get rid of it and out of the way. And it's just some pots and stuff that I wanted to get washed up, and then it became so cold that I didn't finish up there. So now I'm going to dump the sterilized potting soil that I did in the microwave into my tub, and I'm showing you how dry that seed starter mix is. It is just powder. So I put in the potting soil, and the potting soil is slightly damp. It's not saturated, but I think it's going to be enough to moisten the soil, the seed starting mix. I'm going to mix it in very, very well. Like I said, it had powder. It was throwing up in the air, and I didn't want to breathe that in. So I'm being careful to stir it in a way that won't send up too much particles for me to breathe in. I'll mix it as much as I can, and then I grab the other bag because one bag was not enough. So I'm going to end up with a lot left over after I fill up these containers, but that's okay. I can use it to start other seeds. So I'm just mixing it thoroughly, getting it all done. I want to make sure it's going to moisten it well enough without adding more water. I may need to add more water after I get it put into the cells, but I want it dry enough that it easily goes into the little cells. Now I'm thinking about here adding some perlite to it. And I'm getting another phone call. And it just never failed today. I was getting interrupted every which way I went. So I got some perlite. I pulled up to add a little bit to it. It can only help. I do like perlite, but I was going to be very, very careful here so I didn't send up any of the powder into the air, because you don't want to breathe that in, and I didn't have a mask out here. So just being extra careful. And it's not throwing up a lot of dust, which is nice. If it had, I would have grabbed the spray bottle behind me to moisten it down before I really stirred this up, but I'm just going to be careful and stir it all together and get it blended well. So I'll finish up mixing, and then I'll grab what's an old sheet pan I use to put the tray on, or the starter seed container on it, so I can fill it without making a big old mess on my planting table. So this is why I want this soil to be on the drier side, the mix, because it just makes it so much easier to put into the cells, to fill the cells with it. If it's moist, you gotta have to kind of work it down in it with your hands and smoosh it. And I find it so much easier just to fill it and scrape it along the top. And once I come back, after it's pretty much filled, then I'll push it down a little bit more. I think I was here relating about the seed starting mix as I was doing this, but that's going to be coming up pretty soon. I do sometimes blend two things I'm doing, and this time it just didn't work because I didn't have my microphone on for some reason. So I need to have a checklist, really, of when I'm doing videos of things to check prior to me starting something, even if I think it's already on. So I'm just filling it all up as best as I can. And then I will come back and scrape it across, make sure each cell has a good amount in it. Now this, I could really tell there was a lot more moisture to it, which I was thrilled with and what we want. We want the soil to be moist, because when I go to water this or put water in the bottom tray for it to soak up, the moist soil will be better able to take up the nutrients. And you see how nifty having that tray there was as far as being able to clean up. Now, if I'd done it on the table, I would have just, had my little dust broom to put it back into the container. But this way was just easy. I didn't have to pull up my tub of soil and try to scoop it back into it. So starter fertilizers, why you don't need them. Now, your garden, if it's growing even weeds, has nutrients in it. So therefore, you don't know what it may be lacking or not. So before you even get started with adding anything, you really do need to know. And a good soil test will tell you that. Now, if you don't want to go that route, I get it. There is a cost involved, there is some effort involved. So my main way of treating my soil, so to speak, is to build it. I build it with adding my chicken manure from my pen. I add it by adding mulch and compost and all of those good things everywhere. Now, when planting, I already have a video and a blog post on adding soil amendments in the planting hole. I see it far and wide too, as well, of adding amendments. And I just ordered 2 roses. These are vintage roses from a rose growing farm. I like own root roses rather than grafted, but in the instructions it said to add amendments to the hole when you plant them. And my video and blog on that will tell you why that is not so. And with the starter fertilizers, it's the same. It's the same reasoning. Now, what in starter fertilizers is promoted as a benefit to adding it to whenever you're planting out, whether it's annuals, perennials, or anything putting in your garden? And some vloggers or YouTubers, they add it every time they plant, no matter if they've planted there before. And one of them, in fact, I was watching one of the videos and they had to move a tree they had planted a couple of years earlier. And it hadn't gotten big. It was still smaller side, so it was okay to move it. But when they dug it up, they were surprised that their roots hadn't gone away from the planting hole. And that's the issue. When you put starter fertilizers or amendments that feed the plant, you then discourage their roots from going out into the native soil around, searching for those nutrients. And that's what the roots do. That's what their job is to go out and find nutrients. And then that anchors the plant. It makes friends with the soil microbes, all of that good stuff. When you add stuff to the hole, it can actually cause the plant to become root bound. And that's what had happened in this particular instance of this tree. They were just going around and around in the hole. Therefore, you didn't get much growth, and some plants actually will die because of that. So that is one reason why you do not want them to go out. Now, what is in the starter fertilizers? One is bone meal. I have a whole blog post on bone meal. I do not think I have a whole video on it. I think I included it in my rose fertilizer video that I did last summer. And I will link that in the description box below, as well as the blog post. But what bone meal has in it that's supposed to help with the root growth, and you will even see this on rose websites where you buy them, that they will actually promote adding bone meal to the planting hole. The phosphorus in it is supposed to encourage plant root growth. Now, that phosphorus does do that. But actually, when you're adding the bone meal, if there is too much phosphorus, it does the opposite. Most soils have plenty of phosphorus. It's not one of those nutrients that goes away quickly. It's a slow mover in the soil. And if you put the bone meal right in the hole, the roots won't go anywhere, because you're hindering it from talking to the soil microbes, which is what it needs to do. So bone meal also is poisonous to your dogs. So if they should dig it up and start eating it, they'll lick it. So you never put on top of the soil for sure. But other ground critters are attracted to it. Gophers, voles, squirrels, anything that you don't want digging up your garden, they're going to come and dig it up to get to that bone meal, and they can smell it no matter how deep you put it. So that's another reason why you want to avoid the starter fertilizers. Another thing, the mycorrhizal fungi. That's supposed to be a big deal in these starter fertilizers that's supposed to help your plants. Well, I just did a couple of weeks ago, or a week ago, a whole video on mycorrhizal fungi and why you don't want to add it. Some of the detriments of it going into your soil. Number one, it can interfere with your native fungi. The other is it's probably not even alive in those products. So if it is alive, it can cause a problem. If it's not alive, it's useless. So let's see. I wanted to... now if your soil does not need extra nutrients, where is that going? Meaning if there's too much, and the number one, and I've said this a few times, the number one mistake most gardeners, whether they're new or some of them could be veteran gardeners, is over-fertilizing. They think the plants need it because that's what's promoted far and wide. And that's not the case. Your soil, if you are always building it with the mulching, the composting, which most of us who love organic gardening do, then your soil will have enough nutrients. Now, there are a couple fertilizers that I like, especially for my containers, that if there's like if I see maybe there's a deficit somewhere, mostly my containers, like I said, because they're not going down into the soil and stuff, and I'll have them both listed in the description box below. The one is pre-digested, meaning it's immediately available to your plant. It doesn't need the microbes to break it down for the plant. And the other is it feeds the microbes too. So yeah, it just is a double benefit. Now the other one is it's organic. It's made from food waste. And it has a long track record behind it of being very beneficial. So, that might be a plus in an area that you feel that you're over utilizing, where that you're mass planting, like in a vegetable garden, in raised beds. A lot of times you may need to add something a little bit more. Usually not, but if you see something going wrong, and some people have sandy soil where nutrients wash away more quickly, that's where these can come in handy. But the one thing that I do use quite a bit with my seed starting, with planting, is called Organic Rev. And it is a humic acid that is beneficial as far as stimulating root growth, which is what you want. You want to stimulate root growth. And you've seen me soaking plants in it and then pouring it on top of the plant once it's been planted. And that really has been a huge plus, as well as there's something in it, and I couldn't explain what, that like if I've had tomato plants in here and we were going to get a hard frost, and the ones I watered with the Rev did fine, and the ones I didn't, they were harmed by the cold temperature. So it does something to, you know, the plant that makes it tougher for tougher conditions. So that is one thing. I'll also put a link for that in the description box below. So I have worked with them in the past. It's a brand that has really impressed me. So I'm not getting paid for this video, but I have in the past for, you know, supporting or promoting them. So I want to just disclose that right there. But it is something that I genuinely have found helpful. So, okay. So what are the alternatives? I think I've mentioned some of them. Building your soil, using manures, composting, all of those things. So you don't need to put stuff in the hole, put it on top as a mulch or a compost. You know what I mean. But then the nutrients go down naturally with watering and with rainfall and all of those things. So I think, let me read my list. Yeah, I think I'm good. I think, you know, your native soil, you want your plants to become used to your native soil and just build that. I know raised beds, if you have really terrible soil and it's going to take a long time to fix it, raised beds is a way to go, and then you fill it with the soil that you want. So, yeah. So let's get back to this. Now I filled this up with it, refilled it with the soil, and I think I can, yeah, it's really fluffy. So I think I'm going to press it down in here. I'll use the back end just to firm it down. Now, to me, it's a big misnomer when people say that seeds need big, you know, fluffy soil. And I always think about and compare, and I have mentioned this before, soil blocking. They really compress those little things to death, and they're fine. So I don't know why, and they say that's the best way to go, is those soil blocks. I'm topping these up a little bit. Definitely much moisture, much moisture. So I will also put some warm water on top of this, help it to moisten even more, so that the I don't know what it was in here, if it was coconut coir or, I'm checking my camera, coconut coir or the peat moss. I don't think it says of what's in it, but it feels like the dried up peat moss, which is almost impossible to get rehydrated. Yeah, it doesn't say. So there is that. There is that. Okay, topping this up with a little more of this, and I will choose something to plant in here. I haven't done that yet. I was so concerned with getting it where it will hold moisture that I hadn't really thought about it. And there's, yeah, look how much is left over from that. I did have the 2 bags of soil, but man, I could fill up a bunch more. And this one over here, I did say I was going to share this one over here that I started to work on. I'll set this over here. I started to work on this burpee one, and in that video, I think it was my last video on my lilacs and my delphinium seeds, that the pellets were, some of them were sideways and some of them were upright. Now the ones that were upright, they all puffed up just fine, absorbed the water, and then they just crumbled down. Now the ones that were sideways, they didn't. I didn't realize that. So I thought, oh, they'll just get all mushy from the water. And so here I'm trying to dig them out with this thing. And yeah, I even poured water on top. Is there any water down in here in the tray? No. But yeah, the ones that turn sideways. So do take the time to turn those pellets over to where they are upright rather than on their sides. Yeah. So this one, it didn't puff up, so it didn't absorb all the water because it couldn't expand. So I'm going to have to take the time to dig each one of these out without damaging my planter. And I did come back, I think, and poured some more warm water over it. But that didn't even work because I couldn't expand and open up for all of the coconut coir to absorb it. So, yeah, big mistake, because it's a lot easier to turn them pellets over when they're hard than it is to try to go dig them out now. It's a big pain in the patoot. So, word to the wise, turn all them pellets over. Yeah, really bad. Okay. I think I'll try some more hot water in there and see if that'll help those pellets absorb water. Okay, now I think I have picked what I want to put in here, and that is gomphrena. I want a lot of gomphrena this year. It's beautiful, bright, tough, and I love the way that you can dry them and they really hold their color. So that's what's going to go in here. But I think I have rounded on enough, and right now I have to go and merge my videos, the one that has no sound, and this one, so that I can have it ready for you tomorrow. And isn't that sun gorgeous? It was supposed to be just partly or mostly cloudy today, and I'm enjoying the sun. It is actually quite warm out there. So I may find something I can do outside. We still have a little bit of snow. The pouring rain we got yesterday and last night just didn't get rid of all of it, but it did melt a lot of it. And starting tomorrow, I think we're supposed to have a full week of rain. So I'm just going to enjoy the sunshine. I'm going to go absorb the rays. And, oh yeah, I will come back and I am going to seed this with microgreens. And I'll share that with you. Now this one, I did sanitize all of that. I may go ahead and mix in some perlite in here just for the hay of it. And yeah, that's all good. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know, have you ever tried using starter fertilizers and had a fail? I know a lot of people claim success, and maybe they were lucky. Or, you know, I had one viewer who actually said that she had started 2 plants the same. I think it was roses, I think tree roses. And she said one flourished and one didn't. The one that didn't, she had used starter fertilizer in the hole. And the one that did, she had run out. And so she didn't put it in that hole because she didn't want to have to wait and go run, get some and bring it back. And it was... Alrighty, garden friends, that is it for today. My card had run out. That's why it kind of ended abruptly. But it is what it is. I was done anyways. So come on back. We will start some microgreens in an upcoming video. I will get my gomphrena planted. We will do plant up the little seed starter kit. I'll figure out what seeds I want to put in there. And I had a request for a Q&A, which I can do one of those. I have a bunch of questions that would be good to answer. And someone asked about showing how to how do you do garden journaling. And I thought, okay, that's different. I will get my garden journal out here and we will start in sharing how that should work for you. So I will see you in the next video.